Central Minnesota Sports Hub. It's the Morning Sports Desk, presented by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and streaming on YouTube.
It is the Morning Sports Desk, powered by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade in Wadena. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There's Corey Tackman. There's our guy Zeke Foreman. This is the Morning Sports Desk 2025 Minnesota Twins preview special. How are we feeling? Don't answer that question quite yet. We will do a vibe check on the season. But before we do that, Corey, we should shout out the good folks at the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade.
You know, we talk every single day about the Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Oh, by the way, you know what? I think, can we break some news here maybe a little bit today?
Yeah, why not?
On Thursday for Twins opening day, Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade is giving the Morning Sports Desk a mystery jersey that we are going to reveal and give away on the Sports Desk. So we got a mystery jersey coming on Thursday for opening day for the Minnesota Twins. The mystery jersey is one of the many things that you can win when you're at the FunZone Arcade. But the Pizza Ranch, obviously, daily specials. Mondays, half-price play in the Fun Zone. Tuesday is Kids Day, where one child 10 and under eats free per paying adult. Wednesday, earn double points on your ranch rewards. Thursday is wing night at the buffet. The Pizza Ranch, satisfying your belly and your desire to have a little fun. And yeah, they're giving us a mystery jersey to reveal and give away Thursday on the Morning Sports Desk. Shout out the Pizza Ranch.
By the way, what do we got any guesses? What do we think the mystery jersey is?
I think it's going to be a baseball jersey. There's different categories that we will be able to know from sport, like between sports. So it'll be a baseball jersey. That would be fun. Let's guess. Right now, I will guess it is going to be a Cleveland Indians Kenny Lofton jersey.
Ooh. All right, Zeke, what's your guess?
Kenny Lofton would be sweet. I'm gonna say it's a Shohei. I bet there's a lot of Shohei jerseys in those mysteries. I'm gonna go with the most popular player in baseball right now, in Shohei Ohtani.
Love it.
I'm gonna go with one of the most popular players in baseball, but who was kind of at his peak a couple years ago. I think it's gonna be a Fernando Tatis kind of Padres jersey, the white one with the brown pinstripes. That's my Fernando Tatis.
Great guess.
Fernando Tatis Jr., I should say, not his dad. So,
but although Fernando Tatis Sr. might not be a terrible guess either.
It might not be a bad pull either. No, I mean, they've had some really fun pulls on some of those jerseys. We were talking about this off the show yesterday of like, they pull some names up there and it's like, if you're a kid, like you're like, Dad, I won this jersey. And all of a sudden the dad just gets like some kind of sports flashback. Like it's he's the Vince McMahon, like
Mets, Carlos Baerga.
Yeah.
Be awesome.
I haven't thought of Carlos Baerga in years.
It turns into the meme. Now that's a name I haven't heard in quite some time. All right, let's kill the fun vibes by talking about the Minnesota Twins here on the 2025 Morning Sports Desk Minnesota Twins preview special. All right, time for a vibe check, guys. You know what that means.
Vibes? You know about vibes?
Vibe check. Vibe check.
Put out the vibe.
All right, so we're putting out the vibe on this year's Minnesota Twins team. Corey, you've been on record on this the strongest. Why don't you start us off?
I have it's two things. I have two things. I love baseball. I love it, and I love the Twins. And I'm excited for Thursday, as I am every single year. I don't think I've ever been more pessimistic about the start of a Twins season than I've ever been than this Twins season. It's just like if you want to go back to August? If you go back to August in the Minnesota Twins, it's just been nothing but like the best case scenario has been bad news. Worst case scenario is damn near heartbreak with how the season ended. Like it's not been fun. It's not been fun being a Twins fan going back, like we're talking for a half a year now. And it's affected my mental attitude towards the Twins this season.
So I think the best way to kind of describe it would probably be,
Well, the vibes are wrong.
The vibes are wrong. That's the best way to describe it.
Way wrong.
Way wrong. Zeke?
I'm still undecided because I'm looking around the rest of the division, and while the Twins didn't do a whole lot off-season wise, Mickey Gasper, their big off-season signing, he's like a career minor leaguer who made the opening day roster. Good for him. But I don't think the rest of the division did much to get a lot better either. There was the Alex Bregman to the Tigers rumors. He ends up going to Boston, and just everyone else is kind of treading water, shedding some cap space because we know it's going to be Dodgers Yankees in the World Series. I mean, it's no secret we're going to get a rematch because the Dodgers bought everybody, and then the Yankees pretty much bought everybody else. But it's going to be health wise. I mean, the Twins have a talented roster on paper. It's just how many games are we going to get out of Royce Lewis, who's going to start the season on the IL, out of Brooks Lee, who's going to start the season on the IL, from Byron Buxton, who had a good season last year, and Carlos Correa, who ended last season on the IL. It's going to come down to injuries, and that's as all Twins fans should be. That should be the big concern, is if the big three in Lewis, Buxton, and Correa can play more than 40 games together this year.
Good tease, because we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Zeke, I would probably categorize it as
I want to vibe.
You want to jump in on this team.
I do.
But they are not doing anything to themselves to kind of inspire that confidence in you.
If they would have brought Kyle Gibson back instead of him going back to Baltimore, I'd be all in on this Twins team.
Gibby, man. I was always the true Kyle Gibson defender back in the day. Twins fans would complain all the time, and I'd be like, look, he's not great. He's not bad either. He's a solid 4 starter, and nobody appreciated him. Anyway, but with this Twins team, I think you're right, Zeke. I mean, really, like, they haven't done a ton to inspire confidence. And like Corey said, I mean, just the way that last season ended, even in 2022, they collapsed. But we kind of knew throughout the year, like, like they could make the playoffs, but like it wouldn't be a strong division winner. And last year's Twins team was on pace to win like 95 games on like August 17th and had just the worst 6-week collapse I've ever seen, to get leapfrogged by 2 division teams and to watch them all win playoff series and everything about that. Not fun at all for the Twins. But at least in 2022, they re-signed Carlos Correa, which was a big contract to instill some momentum. It wasn't popular at the time, but you traded for Pablo Lopez, and you got new uniforms, and the ballpark got redone, and all this kind of stuff. At least, even if the team itself had a sour taste, there was at least like a little bit of a fresh coat of paint on it. And there's nothing here. There's a lot of uncertainty this offseason with ownership, which we are going to talk about in a second. But all of that being said, I'm with you, Zeke. I look around at the division and I go, well, the Guardians didn't get better. And in fact, their owner hates his team more than the Pohlads hate the Twins. The Royals spend, but I mean, they don't really have a farm system. They're kind of reliant on having to spend and trade for guys. The Tigers, who knows? They were the Bizarro Twins last year for having a horrible season up until the final 6 weeks where they just got white hot. And the White Sox, well, they're the White Sox. I don't think we need to spend too much time on that. But if you look internally at the Twins, I do think there is one strength of this team, and that is their starting pitching and the depth of their starting pitching. You have Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober, Chris Paddock I'm not crazy about, but he's there. And then Simeon Woods-Richardson, who's coming off a career year as a young guy. And then waiting in the wings in your 6-7 spots in the rotation, you have David Festa and Zebby Matthews. There's a couple other pitchers. I know Lewis is another pitcher. Corey Lewis, I believe is his name in the minors, who's kind of like right there as well. Andrew Morris, I think, is another one. There's like a couple guys. Maybe I'm thinking of Andrew Morris instead of Corey Lewis. But either way, like there's a couple guys who haven't made their big league debuts yet who could this season. There's a couple guys last year who we saw some promise from who now can take kind of that second step. I really think the strength of this team, like in 2023, is going to come from their starting rotation. And I think that even last year they had injuries tank them. They had no depth. Whereas in 2023, they had depth because when Tyler Mahle and Kenta Maeda basically went out right away, you had Varland and you had Ober step right into the rotation and things are no problem. So when if Joe Ryan gets hurt like he did last year, you have guys in AAA who can step up and fill that void and be productive. So anyway, I'm with you, Zeke.
I want to vibe.
I want to, but like, again, Lewis starting the season on the IL, the ownership thing and fiasco, it is what it is. So let's move on to point number 2 here that we want to talk about. And this is a little bit of late breaking news. And it's kind of why we decided to do this show today instead of kind of waiting for tomorrow. This is a story that was put on The Athletic yesterday. Dan Hayes, and it wasn't just Dan Hayes. It was kind of a combination of Ken Rosenthal and Brittany Giroli, which means that when there's like multiple reporters on a story like this, you know that this is like a big deal. This isn't just Dan Hayes kind of spitting something out there. This is like a full reported on thing. Here's the headline, guys. Does this instill confidence? Pohlads seeking at least $1.7 billion from the Twins, or for the Twins, have more than $425 million in debt on the books.
Way to go.
Congratulations to them.
Congratulations to them. Now, remember, it lists in this article, and I'm not going to scroll down here. People can go read it, then go check it out. I'll reference it a little bit. But that's kind of that's what the Twins ownership situation is looking like right now. If you remember, the high-end estimate was $1.7 billion. The low end was like 1.4. So the Pohlads are trying to seek the highest possible offer. They are still fielding offers from teams. That is still something they are doing from potential buyers, I should say. They are still kind of in that mix. And in the article, it talks about it that new proposals are being put in. But it's a little tough looking at this. And I'm kind of just scrolling through the article just to kind of find the point to reference it accurately. And looking at kind of where the Twins ownership stands, that they are taking new bids, but again, here's a couple of different reports. I guess I should just say it this way. The Twins were estimated to be worth $1.46 billion and $1.7 billion by Forbes and Sportico, respectively. Though if Minnesota were to sell on the lower end for, say, $1.5 billion, its walkaway number would be much lower unless the potential buyer agreed to absorb all of the debt, a scenario that is unlikely. So they said debt is normal for some of these teams, but it is one of the highest figures among MLB's 30 teams. Guys, how are we feeling?
You want me to go first on this one?
You hammer it home.
So this is we don't like the Pohlads. I think that's just kind of a universal. It's nothing personal. We just don't think they're very, very good owners. What they're asking for is the high end of the valuation, but the number's really closer to 1.4 billion. And I know when you're talking in billions of dollars, an extra, is an extra 300 million, all that much money. I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but they're asking a lot. They're asking a lot for a team that's a mid-market team. They're asking a lot for a team that plays a sport that is lost the interest, generally speaking, of national sports fans. Regionally, baseball still does wonderfully, but nationally speaking, it's just not the sport that it used to be. They're asking for money to bail themselves out of trouble. They're selling this to try to bail themselves out. I went down. I just went down, not a rabbit hole, a mental spiral about this last night, where it just seemed to me like the only way that they're going to get that 1.7 is it's going to come from somebody who's going to be like, listen, I'll give you the money. We'll take on the debts. I'm moving the team. Like, congratulations, the new owners of the Minnesota Twins or the new owners of the Nashville Twins. Or, you know what I mean? Like, who's going to pay more for this team than what they're worth than somebody who wants to move them to a market where he will immediately be able to just, like, spin this thing and, like, hey, welcome. That is obviously deepest worst case scenario. But my mind just went down this spiral of, like, they're asking more than what they're worth, and they have $500 million in debt that they need to pay for. Who's going to take that on? Like, the favor here is, listen, we'll give you all the money, but you better not stipulate we can keep them in Minnesota because I'm moving them. That's obviously way worst case scenario, but I couldn't keep it out of my head.
Well, and I believe it says Major League Baseball in the article wants the Twins to sell at the highest possible valuation, knowing it'll boost the values of the other 29 teams. But they also do want it to stay. They do want it to a local buyer. They do want a buyer who is like ideally going to keep the team in Minnesota. But here's another thing that's also in here. The Twins were in talks with one interested group and deemed the $1.5 billion valuation a non-starter. The other thing in this is, and this is where it just gets really murky, ideally the league would prefer an owner with strong ties to the area, but the number of potential lead investors with links to Minnesota might be more limited than it would be in a large market. Further complicating matters is the belief that the current Twins executive chair, Joe Pohlad, would prefer to stay in control of the club, multiple sources told The Athletic. Pohlad remaining in some capacity with a new ownership group isn't out of the realm of possibility, multiple sources said.
Hey guys, you want to buy my car?
Yeah, sure.
I still owe $15,000 on it. You can buy it, you can own it, but I'm still going to drive it whenever I want, wherever I want. But you'll own it. It'll be your car, but I'm still gonna drive it around. That's what this sounds like. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense.
What basically, here's the tea leaves that I've been from reading and listening to things throughout the sale process. The Pohlads, like Carl Pohlad in the original business, right? Like was successful enough back in the day. Now the kids and now the grandkids are starting to run the show. And turns out they probably allegedly stink at this because they sold off the radio stations they had in the Twin Cities. They sold off other assets they've had. They continue to sell off assets because their real estate, I mean, the Pohlads make money in real estate, and real estate market, not ideal right now. And so what they're hoping to do is sell off all these other assets to give them enough capital to hang on to those assets to be able to kind of wade through and keep the real estate stuff going. And so that's why they want to sell the Twins more broadly, because they stink, allegedly, at business ventures and are not great business people. And they're kind of tanking their family's brand and legacy and all that kind of stuff. Now, that being said, from everything I've heard, like Joe Pohlad does actually want to run the team. Like he was actually interested, like in actually running the team. But when you have the whole family broadly, that's like, we don't really care about the Twins because that was our grandpa's kind of idea and we don't really care for it. And maybe Joe Pohlad is the one that actually does want to, but he gets no support from the family. But either way, it's like Zeke said, do you want to buy my car? I'm still going to drive it though. Like, what are we doing here? Which is fully my take in all this is that I think it is, I think more than ever, we just need to brace for the possibility of come August around the trade deadline or something like that. This team is going to be 2 games out of first place. And it's going to be like, well, what could they do? Can they make a stretch run? Or they're going to be 2 games ahead in the division. And we're going to get a breaking news story from the Star Tribune that says, after careful consideration, the Pohlad family has decided it would be in the best interest to not sell the Twins because the Nationals did this. There was another team in baseball that was trying to sell. I believe it was the Angels. And they both were like, we're going to put the team on the market. And then they don't get the number they want. And they go, you know what? Never mind. You got all excited. We are going to sell the team. And then fans are not going to show up the rest of the year. And then whatever happens is whatever happens, which again, just the Twins have been experts in the last 5 years of any time there's momentum with this franchise of just squashing it. Not even intentionally. They're just so inept at building a brand that they've been really bad at this. It's been really bad. Whether it's rolling out the new TV deal, whether it's the Bally fiasco, whether it's been the ownership stuff, whether it's been right-sizing the payroll, whether it's crying poor about some of this stuff. I mean, all of it really is just like, when you look at it, it's just not a great thing, which is why they need to sell the team. I don't know if they will. All right, gut level, yes or no, nothing else. I already said my answer. Does the team actually get sold by the Pohlad family within the next 12 months, or at least an announcement of a sale?
No.
Yeah, no. All right.
Way you're giving them so much credit for only saying this is the last 5 years. They've been mostly incompetent since 1992. and got lucky in the early 2000s for a decade there.
Right. And then squandered it by never investing in the team.
Yeah, this is not, I just, Zeke and I are a little closer in age. Like, you couldn't walk around a college campus without 85% of everybody on that college campus wearing Twins gear. I guarantee you that's not how it is anymore. The Twins are the most popular team in this state for a certain age of people. Our age, that's not the case anymore.
Well, and even still, I think in the last 5 to 7 years where they've been largely competitive, like the 2010s, they were rebuilding and they were bad, and that was all that. But like coming out of it into the early 2020s, and they've made the playoffs about 50% of the time, once every 2 years, which isn't a great number, but it's not a bad number considering where they were a decade ago. But yeah, it's anytime in the recent memory, they've had like, oh, here's a nice little fun team, and they just squashed any kind of momentum with the squad. So anyway, let's move on to the next thing. Obviously, we talked about the big three: Buxton, Correa, Lewis. Lewis is already going to start the year on the IL. Buxton did play over 100 games last year for the second time in his career. Carlos Correa was an all-star, and deservedly so, in the first half of the season before getting plantar fasciitis in the other ankle. So here's hoping that lightning doesn't strike a third time. And then Royce Lewis, who is starting the year on the IL. All right. How many games do they play together? Here's my over-under, 55.5 games that all three of them will be in the lineup on the same day. 55.5 over-under. What are you hammering?
Go ahead, Zeke.
Well, here's the deal, is I've been playing a lot of online sports betting lately, and whatever I guess is the opposite. And so if I bet the under, my guess is they're going to hit the over by quite a bit. But I wouldn't be surprised either way, because we're already missing like
miss like a month. Yeah,
that Royce Lewis is going to miss because he lasted 3 at bats last year, had a double and a home run, and then tore his quad rounding second base trying to stretch. I don't remember what.
Yeah, it was on the double. It was a triple. Yeah, and he was running the third, and he
that's what it was.
Tweaked the hamstring.
I want to say the over so bad. I want to so bad, but we've been burned by this before.
I made the number up, Corey.
Okay, you made so 55.5 is kind of arbitrary here.
Yeah,
you're gonna take the over, Zeke.
Yeah,
you sound so confident.
I'm gonna officially go on the record. I'm gonna take the under.
Interesting. All right, so I'm going to do the opposite, CJ. I'm going to take the over, but it's not like 65 games together is good.
Right, no, 56 games together is not a high mark, but considering those three are never on the field at the same time.
Yeah, I'll take the over, but like what's the number where you'd feel good? Like a half a season? Do these guys need to play 81 games together to feel good about the year?
Yeah, I mean, well, to feel really good, like the 90+ percentile outcome, yeah, they need to play 81 games on the field together, and that just does not feel realistic.
Yeah, I understand that's a different question, but like you set the number at such a low, like there's this huge gray area above 50 at 56 or higher, where it's not it's bad news no matter what.
Yeah,
they play together for 80 games this season, and that's going to not be enough.
I'm looking at trying to see if I can find the number.
They go 80-0 in those games.
if they signed Kyle Gibson, they would have.
Yeah, right. If the Twins go 80-0 in the 80 games those three guys play together, then then we can have some fun here. I'm all right.
We can have some Hall of Fame talk after that. Yeah.
So,
right, exactly.
So this is on September 13th of 2024. Buxton, Correa, and Lewis have only been in only 17 starting lineups together this season. Let's say they were together for the final 10 games. Let's put it in. That's they're around the third 30 games played together last season.
Yes.
And with Lewis coming back on the second half of of 2023, and Buxton missing a lot of that year, it's a very low bar, but it's not because I'm setting the bar too low. That is where the bar is at.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
It's a fair bar. It's a fair bar.
It's a fair bar. I'm going to say they'll clear it, but only just to kind of, I'm only trying to just positive will this thing. I think they'll clear it because one of these years they're just bound to. And why not? Why not us? Why not now? All right. Here we go. Here we go on our next kind of down the line. Which twin has the most to prove this season? Kind of excluding those top three guys because we obviously know like health. They have a lot to prove. Contracts, status is top, whatever. Excluding Buxton, Correa, Lewis, which twin has the most to prove this season? I'll go first. I'll jump out here with the most to prove. And mine is going to be Ryan Jeffers. Ryan Jeffers has a lot to prove because I think he is an overall good hitting catcher in baseball. But last year, he started off the first 2 months of the year. He was like an all-star starter level of production. The way he was hitting the baseball, his catching was okay. And he's a hitting first catcher who can play a little defense. And his defense has gotten slightly better, but not like a ton. But he's a hitting catcher. And he was able to hit like an OPS plus or a weighted runs created plus of like 160, like a super high number. 100 is league average. And he was able to be well above average production at the plate. And then all of a sudden in the last 2 months of the year, he was like a 70 weighted runs created plus, which again, for a catcher isn't awful, but isn't the worst in the world when you consider the other option is Christian Vasquez. But like, Jeffers has this ability to kind of lock himself down as the Twins starting catcher or primary catcher for the considerable future. But the last time the Twins tried to do that, he didn't work out, and the Twins had to go sign Christian Vasquez to a 3-year, $30 million contract. And now we're in the same situation again. Vasquez is in the last year of his deal. He's not coming back. And I believe Jeffers is under contract for maybe one more season, maybe two. And you're going to have to figure out, even if he's not, you're going to have to figure out, like, do you want to pay this guy arbitration? Do you want to? So Ryan Jeffers is my thing to figure this out because he has shown flashes of being a truly, truly fun catcher, truly one of the better hitting catchers in the game. And when he's off, though, he's just a guy. And is that a guy you want to invest as your future catcher? Twins have Jameer Camargo, who the Twins don't really trust because he's been to the big leagues in 2 different seasons. He's played like maybe 15 total games, and the Twins have not ever let him play catcher. Like, they are afraid to put him behind the plate. So which makes me think they're not super confident in him. Jeffers has a runway, and he's had it really since they got rid of Garver in 2022. This is going to be 22, 23, 24, his 4th season coming in, where they are expecting him to be the primary catcher, and he kind of has to grab that bull by the horns and show consistently all season long that he can be the hitter that they need him to be. And when he does that, I think this team will be interested in keeping him long-term, or at least like can show that he can be a long-term piece. But as of right now, he's just a guy that like can get kind of hot, but also like still isn't somebody that you trust for a full 162 game season.
Zeke, go ahead. You go next because I have like potentially 4 different answers I want to throw at the wall on
There's
this.
a lot you can go with because of the way last year ended, how disappointing it was.
Yeah. Can I say Max Kepler? Does he still count as a guy who's got to have a big year to show that the Phillies 1 year? No. I'm gonna go Trevor Larnach. I think this needs to be a breakout season for Trevor Larnach. He's got really not much competition for that left field job right now. It'll be Wallner and Wright maybe, and Buxton. You've got Kiersey, who made this the lineup. He's going to fill that Manny Margot role, who's now with Milwaukee.
Right.
Harrison Bader, could come in. He's got a really good glove out there, kind of as a utility guy. Looking at his career stats, I didn't realize that Larnach was only a 236 career hitter.
Yeah,
that's not great for a guy who was a first round pick a handful of years ago. Last year hit 259. He's hitting 306 this spring, 15 hits and 49 at bats. But I need a big year from Larnach. It's his age 28 season. We've seen expectations with outfielders for years, and Buxton had the huge expectations and lived up to them early. Hasn't been able to stay on. We've already hashed that out. Wallner seems to be a guy up and coming, and he's got the one of us aspect because nobody loves us more than us. And the Forest Lake kid, let's all buy Matt Wallner jerseys. Maybe that's the next big
Mr.
thing
Baseball
that happens. Mr. Baseball winner from Forest Lake, yeah, but I think Larnach needs to. This should be a big season for Larnach. He needs to have one.
Well, and like you said, Zeke, they're kind of giving it to him. This is his last real opportunity because there's some corner outfield prospects coming up, Walker Jenkins, in the near future that, like, if he doesn't show he's worth anything, they have no problem kind of moving on from him. And Kersey is a guy who will be a late inning defensive replacement. Bader is going to play versus lefties. Larnach will get to play versus righties. And he's going to get a real opportunity. He had some flashes last year. I know the average wasn't where it wanted to be, but I think it was like a career high in home runs, and he was able to play. But he was also playing on like a turf toe most of the year. So it's like hard to gauge. Like, he had a great year, but also he didn't really, because he still was playing hurt and whatever. So yeah, it'll be a really interesting year for him. And I know he's Corey's guy too. So I think all three of us are invested in that.
I want to love Trevor Larnach so badly, but we're starting to run out of time here. So I kind of split this answer up into some different categories in my head. The first category being, I know you want to exclude Buxton, Correa, Lewis, but the combination of Buxton, Correa, Lewis being healthy solves the Ryan Jeffers problem, right? Like some of the reasons that Ryan Jeffers fell off the planet, so to speak, towards the end of the season was because he wasn't playing with anybody. And when you need him to be your 3 or 4 hitter, when he should be your 6 or 7 hit, like where he slots in the lineup appropriately matters with the best players in the lineup or not. So I know we want to exclude those guys from this conversation, but they're so important to everybody else's success because it puts them where they are appropriate in their offensive philosophy of what the team is trying to do.
And even not just in the offensive order of the lineup, too, just the amount of production you need out of them. Like,
correct.
Instead of like Jeffers, just get a hit today. That's all you need. Instead, it's you better hit like a double and an RBI because nobody else is gonna.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that I know we don't want to talk about them, but they are the clear absolute. If they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, nothing else matters. Okay. So I've got 3 categories on some of these other guys. One is Bailey Ober. I just need to prove that he just needs to prove that he's legit. That's all this is. This is a season for him to prove that he's legit. Eddie Julian needs to prove that he's a big leaguer. I think that's pretty straightforward.
Julian's another one. I mean, he's also running out of room in that infield.
Timeline is a little longer than Larnach's, but I think they're right now you would put them on the same sort of trajectory. And then I think Wallner needs to prove that he's a foundational guy. He doesn't have to be a stud, but if you want to say Buxton, Correa, Lewis in some order are your 3 best players that aren't pitchers, Wallner needs to be the 4th guy. He doesn't ever need to be in his career the best player on the team, but can he be Max Kepler, a guy you just put in your 5th or 6th spot in the order for the next decade and be just a foundational member of this organization? We'll find out. This is the year we find out of that.
By the way, this has been a fun thing to watch all spring training long to see if Rocco does this, but he's been experimenting with Matt Wallner in the leadoff spot. So we'll see if that ends up coming to fruition on opening day.
Just a Twins. That doesn't matter philosophy. It doesn't matter new age, Rocco, old age, baseball, and Ron Gardenhire. There's going to be a left-handed outfielder who's a non-traditional leadoff hitter hitting leadoff for the Minnesota Twins.
Mm-hmm. Wouldn't have it any other way. All right. So, I mean, all those answers are correct. Because, again, turns out when you come off a disappointing season with a lot of young players, it's like, okay, everybody's kind of got something to prove here. Eddie Julian, exactly. That infield's getting crowded, although with the injuries to Lee and Lewis, he's going to make the opening day roster, and there's a good chance he starts at second base or something like that. I think people said, could Julian play first? And I think with the addition of Ty France, I think with Miranda will probably go to third base, either that or he'll split with Castro. But I think Ed Julian committed a lot of errors playing first base in spring to the point where I think the Twins are probably just going to be like, you know what? You're a second baseman / DH. Like that is we're not even going to mess around with this anymore. I think that's going to become a possibility. But yeah, there's a lot of Jose Miranda has something to prove, by the way, because again, Brooks, Lee, Royce, Lewis are there. And there's a prospect who we haven't really talked about yet, which will kind of go into our next segment. Luke Keyshaw is a 2nd round pick by the Twins a couple years ago. The Twins got last year at the trade deadline, a lot of teams were interested in Luke Keyshaw, and the Twins were like, no, we are not trading for help for this stretch run because we believe Luke Keyshaw is going to be a good major league hitter, and he's a second baseman. So there's a chance that we see Luke Keyshaw at some point throughout the season, especially if Lewis / Brooks Lee can't stay healthy. So that'll be another name to watch. So who's going to be the Twins' breakout star this year? As we talk about the players who have something to prove, and it could be somebody who we already know, but who is kind of going to have a big year, a breakout year for the Twins this year? Zeke? Kind of have to think about that.
This is tough, isn't it?
Mike Ford. Can I say Mike Ford?
Yes.
Not Mickey Gasper.
I'm gonna say Mike Ford. Every year there's kind of that Willens Astudillo guy. Last year it was Willie Castro who made the All-Star team as a utility guy. I
think we might have lost Zeke on our Wi-Fi here, so well let him catch back in.
Still frozen.
Up there we go. Zeke's back. Yeah. All right, there we go. Zeke, start from the beginning.
Okay. I'm gonna say Mike Ford. I think last year we had the Naz Reid player who's gonna be the Naz Reid. Willie Castro was my pick last year, made the All-Star team. I really hope it's not Mike Ford, because if Mike Ford is starting at first base, things have gone terribly, terribly wrong for the Minnesota Twins. But I also do kind of hope it is Mike Ford, because he seems like a fun dude. He seems like a fun player. He's not playing well this spring at all. And I when he was like your third biggest signing behind Gasper, or we traded for Gasper, I guess we traded Moran for Gasper after Bader. It was Bader, Ford were the two biggest signings. I'm gonna go Mike Ford. I just have an inkling on a big.
So I think too, as well as we're kind of working through some Wi-Fi stuff here. Corey, who do you have as kind of your player that you think is going to break out this year?
Well, I have these like categories when I think of this sort of thing. Like Zeke mentioned, you have your like Willians Astudillo, who just becomes a fan favorite kind of guy. Maybe that's a spot for Willie Castro to cement that. Maybe it's a spot for Brooks Lee, just ball player. You know what I mean? On the other end of this is like, hey, maybe this is the year that Royce Lewis stays healthy and turns into a superstar. And because he has the ability, if he breaks out, he's a difference maker for an organization, right? So That's really fun. I think the answer is the guy who I talked about at the end of the last question. I think it's Matt Wallner. I think Matt Wallner is just like, he does cement himself as apparently a leadoff hitter or like he's just the 5 hitter for the next decade for the Minnesota Twins, and a guy that you can rely on. So it's not a fun answer. It's not a Willians Astudillo, La Tortuga sort of answer, but I think hopefully he's the guy who you just know. You just pencil him in every single day and you just know.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing with Wallner is he's put together good campaigns over the last couple of years, but he also had spurts where he kind of had a rough start. Like last year, for the first month of the season, he just couldn't hit his way out of a paper bag, and then goes down to AAA, crushes, comes back in June, July, and ends up kind of cementing himself as the Max Kepler replacement. I think my breakout star, again, breakout star is kind of in air quotes a little bit, but I think somebody who's going to break out and have a year and kind of establish himself in the same way that like Simeon's Woods Richardson did last year. He kind of broke out and was like, hey, I am a major league starting pitcher. Because there were some questions like, is this guy a bullpen guy? Can he be a starter? And last year he proved that he can be a nice back of the rotation starter. I think David Festa takes that step up in the Twins rotation. He was somebody who the team thought highly of. He was one of their best, and I think he still technically is a prospect, one of their highest starting pitchers in the farm system. And he got a little taste last year. I saw him pitch live. He's a guy that's got, he's got some stuff. He's got a little bit of that kind of thing that can make him not just like a 4 or 5 starting pitcher. I think, I'm not going to say he could be like an ace, but he can move into that kind of 2-3 starter caliber for this team. And especially with Chris Paddock being the last year of his contract, like, if you're looking ahead in the future, can Festa basically solidify that he belongs in the same tier as that Ryan Ober kind of mix in the Twins rotation? And I think David Festa, because starting pitchers are going to get hurt. It doesn't matter if it's for the Twins, it doesn't matter if it's for the Astros or the Dodgers or the Yankees, you're going to have a starting pitcher get hurt. And when that happens, David Festa is going to be the first guy they call from AAA to come take that spot. And I think he is going to basically pitch so well that the Twins never send him back down to AAA again. And I think that's kind of my case for the breakout star. And I know that the Twins get maligned for the pitching pipeline, quote unquote, and what are they doing and have they developed that? It's not a Cleveland Guardians, Cleveland Indians style where you have Kluber into Bauer, into Bieber, into, whatever. But I think that are they able to get competent major league starting pitching more than they were when Falvey was first hired? I think they are in a better spot that way when you consider that, again, they have like 3 guys who are going to be on the Saints rotation that all are probably going to get big league opportunities this year and will at least hold their own and not be like Chris Archer 4 innings and dive kind of game. So there's my pick. David Festa is my breakout kind of prediction this year for the Twins. Moving on to our next matter of business here, as we got a couple more topics and then we'll get out of here. Let's look at the FanDuel Sportsbook betting odds for the Minnesota Twins. So if you look at the Twins this season, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, the Twins are plus 1,000 odds to win the American League. They are plus 138 odds to win the American League Central. They are plus 850 to win to win the division and win the World Series. If I'm reading this right, it says World Series 2025, win division, AL Central. They are plus 235 on the team to win 90 plus regular season games. Anyway, here's a little bit of some of that, kind of the betting odds. But here's the over-under win total for the season. They have it set at 84.5. Fellas, do we think the Twins are an 85-win ball club or better?
This is a funny question to me. I'm going to kind of combine my answer of this one with the next question, which is going to be, do they win the division?
Yeah.
And I do think they win the division. And I do think they can get to 85 wins. I think they could win, like 87 wins will win the division.
Right.
But that doesn't mean, like, I want to, it's as long as it's very evident that 87 wins is not good. Like, them winning the division is not weirdly. Now, if they end up with like 94 wins and winning the division, I will obviously feel very differently about this. But like 86 wins and a division victory is not going to be enough to make me feel good about this. And both are not only in play, they're likely.
Mm-hmm. I think overall with the 85.5, I think that's probably the right number. I'm going to take the over. But yeah, I mean, they could win the division with 85 wins. They could win it with 87. And yeah, you're not going to feel great about it. Then again, the Twins won the division with like 85 wins in 2023, and they had a nice little playoff run. So it's kind of the get in the playoffs and figure the rest out. But it depends on which version of the Twins you're going to get. And that's what I think we all are frustrated about. Are we going to get the version of the Twins that was a 95-win ball club, 94-win ball club up until August 17th? Or are we going to get the Twins team that couldn't stay healthy and collapse down the stretch? And like, which one is going to show up more? And that's going to be kind of the big question. But yeah, I think the Twins do get over that number. Zeke, what do you think?
I think they finish below 84.5, but I still think that they make the playoffs as a wild card team. I mean,
so how many wins do you think they get then?
I think they'll get like 83.
Yeah.
I think 83 gets you, and you get to beat up on the White Sox all season. You get to beat up on the Royals all season. Tigers, I mean, you're probably going to get Skubal a couple times, and he's the best pitcher in baseball right now. If Skubal even remains with the Tigers, because I've read that they're on the last hope of Torkelson as a major leaguer, but Skubal, I mean, he should have been traded to the Yankees a year ago. There's no reason that the Tigers should have been as good as they were, because I thought that Skubal was was going to be gone. And if the Tigers struggle, I think Skubal one of the first guys to go. And so it kind of all depends on how Detroit does on how the Twins do. But I'd say under 84.5, but I think they'll be nestled into that second wild card spot because the rest of the American League is not great. You look at the AL West.
Not a good division.
Not a good division. Boston got a lot better. Baltimore is good. The Yankees are good. You got to compete with maybe one other AL Central team for that last wild card spot. Probably, I don't know, maybe Kansas City. I don't know.
Just going to be there because they always are. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they'll magic of Cleveland.
Yeah, second wild card spot under 84.5 wins.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is another thing that you bring up, Zeke, and it's a good point. The Twins, like the Vikings, won 14 games last year, and it got inflated a little bit because they played the AFC South. In the same way, the Twins' win total can get inflated a little bit because they're going to play the Chicago White Sox a lot this season. And now everybody in the division is going to have to do that. So it's not like you get a big boost over the Tigers because the Tigers are going to play the White Sox as much as you do. But yeah, compared to like the Toronto Blue Jays, who are going to have to play the Red Sox and the Yankees and the Orioles and the Rays, yeah, you are going to have to play the Chicago White Sox instead, who traded Crochet to the Red Sox, by the way.
Boston, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like, if you look it up, first of all, I think we can just unite because I think we've all kind of answered the question, do they win the Central, do they not? But we just laugh at the Chicago White Sox. I mean, oh, my goodness. They were the worst team in baseball history. They then trade Crochet. They trade anybody of value except for Luis Robert because the trade fell through on a physical. So he's stuck playing in the south side of Chicago. Their stadium is a dump. They had to fire their manager for borderline incompetence. Their GM was the director of player personnel, and they hired him to be GM because they wanted to hire internally because it's cheaper. And here's the other thing. The reason that the White Sox fell apart with that core after winning the division in 2021 is because they were bad at developing players. They had good prospects. They're bad at developing them. So you hire the guy who's in charge of developing them. You give him a promotion. The only thing that does make me mad about this White Sox and still makes me hate them and not feel apathetic is the fact that Ishbia was going to buy the Twins and then Reinsdorf swooped in at the last second. And in 5 years, Justin Ishbia is going to be owning the White Sox and not Jerry Reinsdorf, which is going to be a big L for the rest of the division.
Did you guys see the
money?
Did you guys see the 1919 White Sox ball story?
No.
Real quick, there was a time capsule unearthed like a year ago or something like that. Had a ball from the 1919 World Series, which was the one that they threw to the Cincinnati Reds. Black Sox with Chick Gandil and Shoeless Joe Jackson and all these guys. Well, they found this time capsule with the ball in it, and once the ball was unearthed, things went bad quick. The Tim Anderson stuff, the Jose Abreu leaving, everything. And so they reburied the ball last week. They put it back, and they're hoping that is going to solve all of the issues on the south side of Chicago. So we'll see.
Something tells me it won't. But
there's more than just.
The White Sox are I feel like the White Sox are gonna be better than last year, and it's not because they're more talented. They're actively worse, like much worse. But there's no way that after being the worst team in baseball history in a game that's been played since the Civil War, you are the worst team ever, and that you somehow can get worse. Like there's no way, just by the law of averages, they're that bad again, right?
Yeah. What's the number on guys needing Tommy John surgery in that organization this spring? 6? Is that how many guys are out?
Yeah, 6 pitcher. So, it could be worse, Twins fans.
I mean, to be honest with you, it does feel like they could be worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I
hope that they are. I hope with all of my heart they are worse than 121 losses this year.
I understand law of averages. What about them's better? What about them is nothing? They might actually be worse.
What's their Vegas over-under win total according to FanDuel? Guess.
I'd say 125.
No, on wins?
Oh, on losses. On wins? 39.
Corey?
I'll say 10 more than that. I'll say 49.
They are 54.5.
That's fun.
54.5.
Can I before we wrap this up, I do want to I do have one guy on the Twins that I'm not feeling pessimistic about. I just love Pablo. and I'm just so happy that he's on the team, and that makes me feel good. I feel weirdly okay about Pablo. Well, not weirdly okay about. I feel great about Pablo. I like Joe Ryan. I like what happened in the back end of the bullpen. I think those are some of the reasons why this 84.5 number is totally and completely in play for the Twins. And let's have as many Pablo days as possible, please.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yep.
Pablo Lopez. I am one of the biggest Pablo Lopez fans out there. I was all in when the Twins got him. I was like, this could work. The guy put together a really great second half of the season, showed why he was an ace when he goes into Houston, into the teeth of Minute Maid Park, and cut through that lineup in the playoffs. And to this day, I still think if the Twins were able to get it to when they were in that ALDS, if they could have forced a Game 4 and gotten it back to Minute Maid Park, Pablo Lopez on short rest, I don't say the Twins would have won that game, but I think he would have pitched well enough to keep them in that ball game and have them an opportunity to go pitch in the ALCS, where they would have gotten Joe Ryan, where Joe Ryan would have been healthy and Ober would have. I feel that in my bones, but of course they lost, and I don't know. And again, the Rangers maybe were a team of destiny, but like they were made specifically to beat the Astros because they hate the Astros. And then you got to play the Diamondbacks in the World Series, which is why, again, just get into the playoffs and see what happens. Because in baseball, it's like hockey. Football, basketball, pretty easy to tell with playoffs, generally speaking, who's going to go far. But in baseball and hockey, all it takes is a pitcher to just go on a heater. All it takes is a goalie to go on a heater. All it takes is Yordan Alvarez to just hit every pitch into orbit, or something like that for your team to go off. Let's wrap this up with bold predictions for the season. My bold prediction is that Griffin Jax will be the team's closer by the All-Star.
Oh, you stole it from me.
Yeah.
I was like, no one's mentioned Griffin Jax yet. I'm going to swoop in here and steal the Griffin Jax thunder.
We'll go halvesies on it, Zeke, because I'll be quick. I think Griffin Jax has shown he has the stuff. I mean, there was an article put out by Eno Saris of The Athletic, and he has a Stuff Plus ranking where he basically talks about like just how nasty your pitches are with movement. And then he also talks about the fact of how consistent you can keep it up and how many innings you put in. And basically he's like, Griffin Jax has such high enough stuff that if he were to become a starter, he would still be lethal. Now, I think you just leave him in the bullpen. He's successful. You don't touch him. You have enough starting pitching depth. But there was a legit argument of like, you could move Griffin Jax back to the rotation now that he's kind of figured some stuff out. But I think he has a chance to be better than Duran because Duran's mile per hour, his velocity has come down a bit on his pitches. He's been a little shakier. Griffin Jax, I think, is a little more ascending. And
he was hurt all year. Duran was hurt all year.
Right. He was hurt for the first month of last year. Yeah, exactly. And so maybe that does factor in a little bit. But I still think even at the peak of their powers, which is a good problem to have, where you can just go, you know what, Duran, why don't you take the 8th? Jax will take the 9th. I think Griffin Jax becomes the Twins' primary closer by the All-Star break.
I'll piggyback on that a little bit. I am going to say that Griffin Jax leads all American League relievers in ERA at the season. That's my bold prediction. Is he'll be in the running for that Rolaids Relief Man of the Year.
Yeah, exactly.
Lead the AL in reliever ERA.
We are going to be posting that picture of Griffin Jax in the Air Force uniform with the little like salute emoji every single time. That'll be us. Corey, what's your bold prediction?
The Twins trade one of either Byron Buxton or Carlos Correa.
Ooh.
Ooh.
What's that?
Mid-season or like in the winter?
I don't know. What you asked me for the season? When I don't know. You asked me a bold prediction for the season. So whatever that and however that answers itself.
All right, there we go.
If things do not work out for the Twins, one of those guys is not a Twin at the end of the year.
Well, especially if you're with new ownership coming in, do you take a couple contracts off the books? Do you try whatever? I mean,
new ownership's not coming in.
To get rid of the debt that you are accruing.
Exactly.
I should have gone first on your 2 biggest contracts.
I should have gone first. My bad.
Yeah, way to bring the whole thing down.
Killing the groove.
Wait. I'll take it back. Twins trade either Jax or Duran. One of those guys has to. You can't have 2 closers. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
So if one of those guys establishes himself as a closer, the other guy gets traded.
Yay.
Yeah.
This has been the Twins preview special brought to you by Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Go Twins. Opening day should be a fun one, by the way. Sonny Gray versus Pablo Lopez at Busch Stadium.
Let's go.
That'll be a fun one.
Powered by Wadena's Pizza Ranch and FunZone Arcade. Follow the Morning Sports Desk on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch every show on YouTube.